Good to see you, Purple. I can't believe only 4 rounds have been and gone.
Yeah,
Feels
it
like
is
the
a bit-
season's about to be a year old.
Yeah, we've had teams that were unbeaten after round 2 being talked about as being premiership possibilities, and after round 4 they're out the window and going to finish second last and third last and fourth last. I'm referring to obviously Hawthorn as a potential option on that front because they looked the goods, didn't they? Only a fortnight ago, and then 2 weeks later, a loss to Carlton last week, and then another really bad one to St Kilda yesterday. We might even start there, Jim, in the positives section of this little chat we have on a Monday afternoon with the Saints, because to rack up 22 goals as they did yesterday, obviously just complemented what they'd done previously against Richmond in round 3, and when they got their own season rolling back in round 2 against Fremantle, and that was coming off what was a shock manner of loss against Collingwood in round 1. So they're as impressive as anyone in the past 3 weeks. Big goal kickers, Bill. I mean, they'd 4 players kick 4.
Well, Damo, they went only inside 50 46 times and kicked 22-10. Scored 32 times out of 46. How do you do that?
That might be close to a record of sorts, mightn't it, since the inside 50 count was taken. But, yeah, I mean, Max King, again, for a third consecutive week, kick goals. Gresham's the big one, Bill, isn't it? He in season 2020 was on the verge of becoming what he's about to become. And then last year he had another serious injury, but the last 2 seasons have been written off. And then he's come back. He's probably still some weeks away from hitting his absolute top end of his talents. But he's had a really good start to
Sinclair.
Sinclair's rejuvenated, hasn't he, in playing it more in the middle. Bradley Hill, Jim, I want to reference anyway, because he's always the first one talked about when they lose, and what everyone looks at what he can't do and what he won't do. But he's been an important player for a couple of footy clubs, 3 clubs actually. The latest one being St Kilda, and I mean, to kick 4 goals as he did yesterday, and then for Brett Ratton to say that he'll probably go back to a back role in coming weeks, it just goes to show his versatility. Even as we speak, we're yet to see what the match review office is doing with Paddy Ryder, but he's been back for 2 weeks, and it's no coincidence that they've won the 2 games he's been back. So, yeah, they've got a lot to like.
He gets a week, doesn't he, Damo? You can't do that.
I wasn't so sure, Bill. And again, it's a moot conversation, given we will get an official outcome in a few literally moments. But I didn't have the issue that some people did, Bill. I thought he was standing there and he just braced for the eye contact
but
himself.
If a bloke's kicked and he's open and you run into him...
Well, see, I don't know if he did run into him. I think he stopped. I think he stopped.
And then he gets concussed.
Well, he was whiplashed, not necessarily...
But he had to go off.
Yeah.
I know he didn't go off right there, but I think he's in trouble.
What you're saying...
And I hope he's not.
Yeah, and what you're saying actually does tick the boxes of what they're trying to remove.
That's right,
so
exactly.
I realise I'm probably in a minority on that one. But look, we've been talking about West Coast negatively, haven't we, Jim, for a couple of years. And I think they gave us reason to be negative about them with their own attitude to the way COVID was affecting them. And then they get to 2022 and issues outside their control have really, really wrecked them. But to come to Melbourne and play Collingwood in round 4 with what they've been through, having required to play 39 players to this stage of a season, to have Gaff, Shuey, Sheed, Kelly, Yo unavailable for this round 4 game. Oscar Allen as well.
Did you say 39?
39 players already to this point of the season. Yeah.
Wow. And you know who's a good player has been Willie Rioli.
Yeah.
Because he was, mate, what did he miss, a year?
18 months. How
good has he been since he's come back?
He's been good. Well, his aggression's been a key part of it.
Just on that, Hamish, Mark's third son, was on their list for 3 years, played the 1 game for the West Coast Eagles, now in the Waffle. He said to me, Bill, that Willie Rioli is the most talented footballer he's ever seen.
Wow.
He
said he does stuff that you will not believe. On the track, he's just a freak. So if we can get him playing consistently, and he shows any of that. But I agree with you, Purple. I thought the West Coast, that is a fantastic win for that footy club. Well done.
Yeah, it really was. Richmond, for reasons also that relate to just the adversity component. We've seen what they've done between 2017 and 20, and then last year they fell away. But they've still got in the backs of their mind a feeling that if it all goes well, they're going to be really pointy-ended at the end of the season, Bill. And we saw it against the Bulldogs, didn't we? We saw that old-fashioned, that stereotypical Richmond endeavour and willingness to just move the ball along. And while their older players were good players, it's a different looking Richmond team. It's a different looking one with the way Tarrant is allowing them to structure down back. And even without Grimes on the weekend, it allowed Broad still to go off and do what he does. And he's putting together a nice season to this point already. And they've been able to introduce some good young kids. Josh Gipke's been the main one of that group. And there's They're regrouping on the run, but there's enough to think that they're still going to be right there at the really hard end of the season.
Yep, spot on.
Yep, I'm with you. What about Freo? We don't talk about them much, Purple.
We don't, and they've gone to 3-1. I still can't get a full read on them, Jim. The wins have come against Adelaide way back in round 1, and that was a fortunate win if you remember the Heath Chapman save on the goal line. Then they beat West Coast, which was smashed at the point in time. Then they beat GWS on the weekend. So I'm not yet sure. The loss came against St Kilda in round 2, but person well known to you, Jim. He came of age last year in 2021 in Andrew Brayshaw, and from what he's doing to this point of this year again already, he's taking the necessary next step, isn't it, in his evolution?
Yep. He's a good boy. He's a good boy.
When's Fife back?
It's still unknown. I mean, he's making all the right noises publicly that he'll be back, but it's just still an unknown, Bill. But yeah, it's going to be good because Mundy came back in on the weekend and did what Mundy's done for 45 years already, hasn't it? Play well, so he did.
Well, speaking of mobs, we don't talk about the Gold Coast Suns. We have to quickly mention them.
No, we do. We absolutely do because it was in inverted commas a winnable game, and they won it. And I raise that because I think they too often lose those matches of footy. They lost one the previous week against the Giants, but against the Blues on the weekend they were really good. Anderson is tracking as well as Raul. Raul's had more injury problems than Anderson, but he's tracking beautifully.
Have a look at his kicking efficiency. That's the only thing that lets him down, Noah Anderson. It really does.
He gets enough of it, though, doesn't he? To make a few mistakes.
Big Witsy's been good for him, hasn't he?
They love him, Bill, and obviously know that the leadership component to what he's been able to offer too is so key. I mean, Tuke Miller, it's just a given. He's just going to rack it up, and if he doesn't rack it up, he's still going to have impact, which he did again. And even Marbiot Child, I was a little bit
the big
dubious.
phones.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where and how he was going to impact, but you can see it, can't you? I just thought he was maybe a B grader. They were hoping was an A grader. Well, he might be a B plus, and he might become an A grader. I don't know. But anyway, he's giving them a target, isn't he, Jim? And there's reason to think that what they're saying might actually be real, but I still need to see a few more wins.
Yeah, no, he loves us too. He's a Triple M boy, big Mabsy, big phones. Before we go, two other positives. Geelong. Very good.
They were.
Yeah, it's a very good win for the Cats.
It was a good game, that. Tough game.
Weren't able to pick it. It was. And North Melbourne, funnily enough, who we gave a nice kicking to last week because they bloody deserved it.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you defend, Purple. When you put intent into defending, you keep yourself in games of footy. They were good.
And maybe play a forward, as in Jack Zeeland, rather than down back. If we're going to mention North, we need to mention Essendon too. They were fortunate that Mason Redmond took a mark in the last few seconds. But having said that, to win the game and go 1-3 is a whole lot better scenario than what it would have been otherwise.
And in that game, Tex, well done to Tex.
Yeah, massive return, wasn't it? Given he had no form of match practice of any note going into it, and he was as clean as anyone's been this year.
Yep. And big ears. All right, next we'll go the negative path, I think, with you, Purple.
Come on, Purple.
More Damian Barrett next on the Rush Hour.
Injuries worry us.
Yeah, they do, and they're big names, and they're missing multiple weeks. Cripps is going to miss multiple weeks. So I don't know why footy clubs say a hamstring's a minor hamstring because I don't think there's any such thing as a minor hamstring. Again, but they're yet to.
You're saying 4, Bill?
I'm saying 4.
Yeah, Dr. Bill Brownless. Yeah. It's high on that left leg. Again, they're yet to officially release what they think it's going to be, but it's going to be multiple weeks, and it's a bad blow for them. Jamie Elliott, Jim's an unfortunate one because he's such an important player who's already been through so many problems injury-wise. I mean, he's missed multiple seasons collectively with his serious injuries, and now he's got popped an AC, which will keep him out for probably 12 weeks or up to 12 weeks. And Buddy Franklin,
12.
Buddy Franklin will miss again multiple weeks, whether it's 2 or 4, but it's going to be multiple weeks from the finger injury that he sustained against North Melbourne on the weekend, subbed out of that game after 2 goals. And the big one today that sort of came from effectively nowhere, Bill, was Nick Naitanui, who's done an issue with a medial ligament in his knee. He obviously damaged it during the win against Collingwood, and they've released the news today that it too is like Elliott. It's going to be more than half a season of time on the sideline. So some big names there, unfortunately.
And
Ollie Wines, who look, just so there's no confusion about this. The club itself and Ollie himself is saying there is no link to any COVID vaccine issue with it. And this is the guy, obviously, Bill, who was subbed out at half time of the Thursday night game with nausea and an elevated heart reading. Was taken to hospital and will miss again multiple weeks, according to the club, given the medication that he's on to deal with this latest part of the situation that he's dealing with. But
so, Fat.
Yes.
I think what we need to do here is get Ethan just to put a record on. And Nick Nat, how many is he missing?
He misses 10.
10.
10.
Righto. And Ollie, you're putting a number on him?
Ollie, I'm not sure. I'm not all over that, but 3 or 4. Jamie Elliott, 12. Patrick Cripps, 4. Because it's a 21-day rehab thing anyway.
Why is he doing this year? Why do you do it this way? Just to Dr. Bill?
I want Ethan, because just to document it so that when they're all categorically wrong, we can bring this discussion back up again. Okay. Where else are we going negative?
Well, if we're talking negatives, there was nothing more negative than what Port Adelaide dished up against Melbourne way back to start the round. The game style I get because they obviously had a plan to nullify Melbourne, but the game plan, Jim, fell short when the last part of the game plan is to try and kick a goal yourself, and there was just no plan around that aspect of it. They could get the ball to about 60 or 70 out, but beyond that point, there was just nothing working. I know there's excuses. They are Dixon being out, Alir being out, and All-Australian, Gray being unavailable for reasons, and obviously Wine's going down at half-time of the game, but... At 0 and 4, I don't think there's one person attached to football who would have had the only club being winless to this point of this season after 4 games would be that one. Yeah. So that's how drastically they're fallen off. In a similar boat, I say similar because I think they'll turn it around. Western Bulldogs, they lost to Richmond. It was their 3rd loss, Bill. Their kicking has been deplorable. They had a 7-19 scoreline in that loss. The previous week, which was their one and only win of the year against the Swans, they got away with a 9-17 scoreline. They've had regular stretches, Jim, of just consecutive behinds or even on the weekend just gone 2 stretches of 2 goals 7 in that 7-19 scoreline. There's a real problem there. A lot of it is linked back to even Aaron Norton himself, who's the main hope up there and has had to go solo effectively, but he's just not kicking it at all in a way that it gives them confidence. Tell me though, North Melbourne, Adelaide, Essendon, Port Adelaide are their next 4 games. Yep. They're going to start favourite in all 4, and if they come out of that with a 3 of the 4 wins, well, their season's back on track again. And I expect it to be, despite the obvious and many problems that Luke Beveridge is now wading through.
Hold on.
Yep.
Collingwood's just fallen off a little bit, haven't they?
Rabsy, what happened to your mob?
What happened?
Beaten by South Fremantle.
Well, it was West Coast.
Not really.
Wines kept kicking on the top of Barrass's head, basically, and he took intercept mark after intercept mark.
And again, they had their own problems. I mean, Elliott went down, DeGoey was unavailable through suspension, Adams was out, so they had some key players unavailable themselves, but...
Got to win that.
Nothing compared with what the Eagles had to deal with.
Right.
So you go back to the just before 3-quarter time game in round 3 against Geelong when they're plus 37 and end up losing that, and then they lose to West Coast and make it a 2-2 scoreline. And you look back on the win, St Kilda, when St Kilda just wasn't ready for them in round 1, and Adelaide, who's going to lose a lot of footy this year.
We went positive first, and I forgot to mention this, Purple, but every now and then a unheralded player, has a massive impact on a game of footy. Justin Mcinerney for Sydney in the last 25 minutes of that game was incredible and just jumped out of nowhere and nearly got him over the line single-handedly. So well done to him. He can really play. Yeah,
one of the many Swans kids in that bracket, aren't they, into their second, third, 4th year. And I think they've got as many good kids collectively as any club has got going. I know you're a big fan of most of them.
Yeah, but they've dropped off a bit, haven't they? They were going to win it there 2 weeks ago. I know it's only 4 weeks in.
Yeah.
But it's funny how it changes in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but look, bottom line is that they still won the game of footy, and sometimes you just got to get through those games, and Heaney came through. Jim, GWS is a major worry, 1 and 3, and just a really, really poor showing against the Dockers on the weekend.
The coach's situation? What are you reading into that?
It's just not playing out well. I mean, given it's so public now and that he's embraced the public element of it, that they're going to wait till the end of the year when you're 1 and 3 at that stage, there's going to need to be something more compelling than what's shown to this point to be a recontracting. He's unlucky because he's got them to 5 different final series and won a final in each of those 5 seasons. So I don't think there's too many other coaches who can claim that, and yet he gets to this stage of his contractual situation, and he's probably not going to be at that job next year. Hawthorn's a bit of a worry, as we touched on off the very top, given they conceded 22 goals and have now lost 2 in a row. And on the back of Cripps going down, Bill, Carlton under Michael Voss have got their first real serious reality check as to where they're at.
That was on the cards, that game. The Suns winning that. We're going to go to the buses now. But is it true that Dan McStay is looking at a 6-year deal worth about 6 or 7 or 800?
Well, Tommy Brown's been reporting that there is level of interest at that level for Victorian clubs offering that. I'd be it's a lot of money and a lot of term for a guy who's I think a very good player, but not necessarily one that's going to change the shape of a season for a team that might grab him. But yeah, the Lions love him and they don't want to lose him.
Finishing on the negatives, sometimes when you're retired, you should stay retired.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, and down at the Hampton Rovers, Boss James, there was a bloke that ran around on the weekend and just embarrassed himself and his mates. So, Rabbits, enough is enough. That's the end for
Did he
you.
really?
All right, now where are we sending the buses, please, Purple?
We might send them around.
Is that one still at Carlton or not? Did we move it?
Yeah, we took it out of there. But yeah, we let the grass grow underneath it again. But we've got that one to Port Adelaide, and we're going to send another one across there, Jim, because we just sent the little 18-seater. Yeah, we're going to send the proper 42-seater across there. No, there's some genuine worries there. We'll check in. We'll send a 12-seater to GWS because they're not tracking well. And we've just put a refundable deposit on one out to the Western Oval, all right? We can get our money back, and we might get it back next week, I reckon. But we've just put a booking just to make sure, because it's hard to find a high car of any sorts at the moment. We just needed to get our names on the books on that one because it's a watch this space, that one.
There you go.
All right.
How many buses you got?
We've got as many as we need, Bill, for this
12-seaters,
purpose.
42-seaters. He's got seats everywhere.
Barrett,
well
bus
done,
lines.
Purple.
Cheers, boys.
That was Damo's recovery session.